Being accepted into the Genius New York program was validation of what we've been working on for a number of years. Coming back to Central New York has been a lot of fun, discovering all the new things here, exploring with all my cohort colleagues. That's been great. I've worked in other major cities. They just don't have the community support that you find here in Central New York. We're very excited about Pitch Night, to be able to share with the community about what SkyfireAI is doing.
All right, thank you very much. It's my colleague, Todd Edelman, who's sitting right over there. Thanks so much for having us, SkyfireAI. So my name is Don Mathis. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Skyfire, joined here with several of my colleagues. SkyfireAI is a native AI company that develops and deploys autonomy and multi-ship, which is also called swarming solutions for drones. And we deploy our solutions in critical or mission-critical environments. That's often, in our case, on behalf of law enforcement, it's on behalf of military, it's on behalf of public safety, as well as fire, EMS, and commercial applications that are roughly similar. So what I want you to think about is a drone gets deployed on the basis of a 911 call in order to respond to an accident or to a life-saving critical situation. Think of 5 drones or 6 or 7 that are deployed in a search and rescue pattern to find a lost child in the woods. Think about 25 drones that are deployed in the spirit of forward operating base protection, if you're talking about a forward deployed Marine battalion, for example, in a contested territory. So I'll give you a couple of images here. By the way, everything you're about to see comes from actual deployments of the company, which I'll revert back to in a moment. But I want you to think about, just hypothetically, to get a sense of what we do. If at the beginning of my talk, someone had a cardiac arrest, God forbid, but if someone here had a cardiac arrest, your odds of surviving that at the 7-minute mark are less than 90% odds that you won't survive it without immediate medical attention. So the question is, how do you get that? The problem is ambulances, the average ambulance response time is 7 minutes in the United States. In a rural area, it could be 20 to 30 minutes. So the question is there a way to do it faster? And the answer is yes. If you use a Skyfire deployed DFR-based drone, it can get there in 4 minutes or less. And in fact, our average response time from the clients that we've served is 3 minutes. That's not theoretical or hypothetical for us, actually, because we have a contract with CVS Health to deploy a solution to do exactly that across the country, ultimately. And we have an agreement in principle with the National Health Service of the UK to do the same thing there, starting with rural areas and moving to more urban areas. In fact, Skyfire in the last 18 months has received credit for saving 14 lives so far through a combination of delivering critical life-saving medications, in addition to search and rescue, and at least in one case, a police officer where we were able to direct help, find a police officer, and direct help to that officer who was being attacked by a violent assailant. So that is what we do and what we take very seriously. It's really a mission-based business for a lot of us as we pull the company together. Let's talk about Genius New York. In the time that we've been here, almost half of all the major progress that the company has been achieved in part and thanks to being a part of this program. We have developed an entirely new strategy that it builds on the strategies we've already deployed, some of which I've talked about, to develop DFR, drones for first response, as an infrastructure where we're going to roll that out to multiple locations across the country. And we're not just going to develop it in Genius New York, didn't just give us the ability to develop it here. We actually developed it in collaboration with a number of the companies here. Motovolo and Lighthouse, who we've heard from today, great, fantastic companies. Vodex, who is from a previous cohort. New Air. This is one of the geniuses of Genius New York for us to be able to collaborate and develop from that perspective. I think probably most importantly, at least in the immediate term, we just raised $11 million of capital. We announced it last week. The credibility that came from being a part of this program opened the door for us and helped us raise that capital. And now we're going to deploy it back into continuing to develop here, including, if you look at the bottom left, we imagine up to 100 personnel with a regional command center and with a technology development center taking advantage of all the benefits of Central New York and its opportunity to get us into other parts of the region. The team, I'm not going to belabor everyone's backgrounds here. We've got a lot of us have had the benefit of having exited businesses before, so that entrepreneurial capability, I think, is terrific. Lots of strong technology. Our CTO was at DARPA for 15 years, 17 years, depending on how you count it, and head of AI there for the last 3. We've got people with PhDs in swarming as well as AI. But the thing I do want to mention is across that board, a tremendous amount of us have public service backgrounds. Military, I was in the Navy myself. We've got Air Force, we've got other services, we have FBI, we've got state police, fire and EMS. So we're very committed to the idea of being able to follow the mission, and the mission continues. And with that, that just gives you an idea of how we can deploy our capability across multiple categories. And I'll wrap my comments up and take questions from the judges. Thank you. By the way, I'm bringing my team up. The team that is here, a small subset of that team that we had. We are, again, thrilled to be a part of the program here, so thank you.
Don, congrats again on the $11 million seed raise, big milestone, well done.
Thank you.
When we spoke yesterday, it seemed like your near-term market is mid-sized government agencies, state and local, public safety, and when we discussed your pricing, it felt high in that market. So while we can't put a price on life, I guarantee you these organizations will put a price on their DFR programs.
Fair enough.
How much of that price structure, speak in percentages if you'd like, is going to your specific value add in your software, your platform, and how much is going to partner hardware in terms of drones and docks?
So the way we currently charge based on the price, and it is high, just as a way of context, I'd say that current pricing has a target customer set. It's about 109 cities is the way we calculate it today, plus state agencies, which would be larger than that. And one of the things we are doing is looking at taking different components from our technology stack and bringing them to market a la carte for specific use cases. That has opened the door for some new clients. But to the specific question, it's about 80% today on average over a 3-year contract is software based, and so that's flowing to the company. And then the other 20% is not the hardware, but it typically is services that go around standing up the operation and acting as a systems integrator to be forward deployed in terms of bringing this to market. The hardware itself, we actually don't consider at all as part of that number that I referred yesterday. That's sort of above and beyond. We take a small commission on that in effect, kind of a, and it drops to the bottom line, but we don't actually take the principal risk on the hardware itself.
So talk to us a little bit more about the specific secret sauce. So if I have an already existing drone first response unit, a police system, why am I coming to you versus other ones? What is that really unique capability that you bring to the table that others do not?
I mean, I'll start with the AI itself. So from back on the team page, we had a few people there who I think are amongst the very few in the world who can do this kind of swarming capability. So I think that's a really big piece of it. We've got literally our PhD, who is a swarming PhD, holds 11 patents in the category. We have Andrew Ang, who is probably one of the top 20 computer vision folks in the world, and he actually wrote our computer vision capability together with the current team. There's Brian from DARPA and others. So I sort of feel like we start with, hey, number one, it really works and it works well, and I think it's because we had so much time and effort to put into making sure that we had a world-class product, and when we win in the competition, it's the first thing that typically is reported to us. Hey, this actually works, and that's not always true. That's not an advantage that lasts forever. It's sort of an interim advantage, the way I kind of see it. Others catch up with that over time, right? So we look at it as a way of building momentum, and then as you build the momentum and you kind of become more and more enmeshed in places, because we switch from the synthetic data that we use to train the models when we start to a permanent sort of data based on real world experience, that becomes its own moat. So the data ultimately becomes probably the best moat that gets us there. The final part of the answer to your question is, a lot of times we're being priced against what would it take if you had a completely staffed program, and that is almost always more expensive than us, so we make it a little bit more efficient economically.
So help me just kind of categorize what your product is. Are you an integrator? Are you an intelligence layer? Are you a platform? Like, what are all the pieces that come together to make it?
I mean, I don't want to say yes, which would be the pithy short answer. We use being a systems integrator, which we definitely are, as a way of selling into the public safety space. Not for defense, and commercial is different, right? But for public safety, what we typically get is an agency that reaches out and says, we've heard about DFR, we don't know what it is. We may own a few drones. There are 18,000 police departments in America, about 10% own a drone. Now, by the way, of that number, many own a drone because the local Rotary Club donated a DJI drone 3 years ago. So you'll hear this pretty frequently. Hey, we got a drone. We had a guy who flew it for us, or a gal who flew it for us, but they left the department. As soon as they get their 107 license, they retire and go work for Skydio. Help us figure out what to do with that. So what we'll do is we go in and we say, hey, no problem, we will be the systems integrator. That's that 20% that I talked about before in terms of the economics of the project. After that, it's a platform, and the real economics are around being a platform. So we sit in the stack, the technology stack, between the operating system on the aircraft and the user. And we are an orchestration layer that pulls those pieces together. Oh, and I think we're out of time. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.